We're good. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Don't see any adjustments to the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
First item is indigent business.
Hey, so Chantel at Rule of Indigent Services. I have two cases for you. And the first case is case number 2019-0263. This case was previously placed in suspension on 6/25 of 2019 pending a final determination of a possible resource. And it does now appear that Bannock County is the last resource for pre-notice requests. So our recommendation is approval of this case at this time. And the next case for you is case number 2022-0061. It is an application for cremation expenses submitted through Wilkes Funeral Home in the amount of $1,200. All of the information was obtained from the state's website. The deceased is a 39-year-old male who was residing in Bannock County, is not a veteran. With the information that we did obtain, it does appear that this does meet criteria to be eligible for services through the indigent program, and Bannock County is the last payment for resource, and there is no responsibility available for reimbursement at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve case numbers 2019-0263 and 2022-0061.
We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. All right. Looks like our next item of business is Board of Ambulance.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we enter into the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
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 Good morning,
Hello.
Commissioners.
Good morning.
Nick Christensen, Hotel Fire and Bannock County Ambulance. I have two items for you today. The first is requesting approval and signatures on a grant application for the State Ems Grant. This is a grant we apply for each year and have benefited from greatly for many years. This year we're applying, they have it split into two items, one's for a vehicle and one's for equipment. This year we're applying for a remounted ambulance. The grant, if awarded, would cover almost all of the cost of that remount. And then the equipment that we have on here is for a power load system, the cot and loader that goes in the back of the ambulance. The quote we have here for $51,877 is that is not the system we currently have. That's kind of the cat's meow and latest system, and we're not sure we're actually headed that direction, but the grant possibility is $40,000. And we still have the option to, I guess, downgrade to what we currently use. We haven't had a chance to look at this new system, but that's kind of where that's at. And so on that, we would request your approval to send in this application and your signatures on it.
I don't have any issue with it.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the application and authorize signature.
Have a motion. All in favor say aye.
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 The second item is we have a request for a fee waiver for the 4th of July celebration up at the Fairgrounds. Currently we plan to staff that with 2 personnel and the UTV up at the Fairgrounds from probably 11 to midnight. 11 a.m. to midnight is our current plan. So the cost of that would be $1,560 roughly. And we think it's a wise thing to do with how many people we get up there, and we recommend supporting it.
I have a question on that. We don't waive the fee for the sheriff up there, do we?
No.
Do we pay them the $50 an hour to cover?
Mhm.
So why would we waive the fee for this if it's pretty much the same thing?
We'd have to pay it out of contingency or wherever it was budgeted at. Scott's operations, part of
the budget for the
4th of July.
event.
In theory, that would be correct, but there's only $10,000 that we can spend above the fireworks until we get more money. But if you opt to increase the budget, then yes, that would definitely be possible. And I think I had talked to Scott. Scott. Sorry. I had talked to Scott about coming in to see you guys about changing that budget. So if you deny
Yep.
the waiver, we could just increase the budget to cover that.
Oh, I was just thinking about it this morning, that we don't waive the sheriff's fees. Why do
Yeah.
we waive the ambulance fees?
The $1,500, is that hard cost or is that soft cost?
That's soft.
Soft
It depends
cost.
on who gets called in for overtime.
Well, so like I said,
So it's a hard cost.
I would just cover the hard cost of it, just like we do in the sheriff's office, because we're not,
So we cover the bodies, which is $1,500.
1560, and that's based on average overtime we pay, depending on who.
it's not your
overtime.
actual,
So-
I mean, it might be,
Allocated $1,600.
That's what I would prefer.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I wouldn't do the waiver then, and I just send the bill up to them, and then either we cover it out of
And if
wherever budget line we, or increase, or whatever we do.
Or maybe if we get closer and we don't have the budget funds, then, okay, maybe then we waive it. But
But yeah,
I would like to see that, again, if we're not
that's
waiving
the
the
cost,
sheriff.
that's what it costs.
And I think, Christie, are you handling all those bills? Okay, so send it to the $1,600 bill to Christie, not to Scott.
Okay.
I'm good with that. Send- yeah.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to deny the waiver for the ambulance service at the 4th of July.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we exit the Board of Ambulance.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. All right. Seth, you got like 10 different things here.
Just 4.
I thought it was 5, actually.
I hope it's not 5. If it is, I'm not sure what the 5th is, but I've got 4 different memorandum of understanding or agreements that I need approved and signed by either the full board or Ernie, the chairman. So the first one I've got is the clinician project memorandum of understanding that we have done with the Department of Juvenile Corrections and Idaho Department of Health and Welfare since 2008. I believe this joint powers is specifically just with Department of Juvenile Corrections, but basically what it is, they pay for us to have either a clinician or we have 2 part-time clinicians that we have in our facility that make assessments on required to have 93% of the juveniles assessed to make referrals for services. So they pay that $51,500. It doesn't go through our budget at all. They pay directly to the clinician, but we manage the clinician services.
So real quick, if we get that for the juvenile assessment, how will that impact this going forward?
Well, both of our clinicians have been trained. They're very interested in that assessment center, so they want to be able to give whatever resources are available to them. I know that Todd Mauger turned that grant application in, I believe, on Friday.
Yep.
And I wrote a letter of support saying that we would offer all the assessments that we currently do and any that they would like us to help them with. So it might increase their workload a little bit, but they're really excited about it and want to be on board with it.
So in the future, again, making the assumption we get the grant, put everything together, let's say year 2, would these people here then just transfer over to the assessment center?
No, they would not. This would still be specific for the juvenile detention
Okay.
assessments.
Okay.
So it won't affect that at all. We're just in full support of that and willing to provide assessments.
That was just my
from the-
question, if they belonged over there instead of with you.
Yep.
Okay.
The second item I have is.
Let's go ahead and do a motion on this one and sign that one.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve, where'd that go? We approve the memorandum of agreement for clinical services and juvenile detention facilities in the state of Idaho.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I should have mentioned that all 4 of these have been reviewed by the prosecutor's office and approved. So, second item is the Idaho State University Memorandum of Understanding for medical services. So we've had this in effect since 2000, but basically what we do is we pay their residency program $200 a month, which is a fabulous deal. They come in, they do physicals on up to 16 residents every 2 weeks, and in addition to that, we have resident on calls, so we can call them with medical questions and advice. pretty much any time. So it's a really great deal. It's a great deal for ISU because they get experience with us, and it's financially a wonderful deal for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the affiliation agreement with Idaho State University as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The third item is an MOU for a PREA audit. So we have to have a PREA audit every 3 years. That's the Prison Rape Elimination Act. So I searched far and wide for a PREA auditor to be able to come to our place. We had an audit set up, and that individual we had set up retired. But this current audit that you have the MOU for, it's for $3,750, which is an incredible deal. I saw one auditor wanted to charge us $19,000 to come do our audit for the same exact work as this is going to be. So this will occur. It's being audited over the last 3 years, but they'll come in and go through all of our training records, all of the resident files, and our facility database to make sure that we're compliant with PREA. Our on-site audit is going to happen on September 20th, and I'll be doing a pre-audit questionnaire in August.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the contract for auditing services for the PREA audit as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 The fourth one, and I hope the final one,
It is.
is MOU between the Juvenile Detention Board, which is the 6 counties that have ownership stake in the Juvenile Detention Center. This is a joint powers agreement. This has been revised. It was revised by our prosecutor's office attorney, Alan Bomey. Am I saying that right? Bomey. I always mess it up. But he drafted the agreement. There's been a couple revisions to it. Commissioner Huff has been actively involved in the changes to that agreement. So this is the final but the final MOU for that, so that I can start getting it out to the counties. It'll basically change the billing procedures. The other change it makes is we always had allotted beds in the past, and there will no longer be allotted beds. So the 6 counties can basically send whatever juveniles they need to within certain criteria, and then I'll make a decision on who needs to stay or who needs to go if we become at capacity.
Where did the billing fall on this one? Is the billing about the same as it was previous, or?
Well, it's set up like a 10-year scale. So looking at use, it basically just is strict usage now. So are you asking like for figures?
Well, it costs Bannock County more money.
It will cost Bannock County more money under this new agreement. It's an easier way to bill, but previously Bannock County and the other counties paid half of the allotment on what they were allocated, and then the other partial was based on their actual usage. So now it will be strictly usage.
This is going to be the 10-year average, though?
Yes.
So I've got numbers on a scenario I ran if you're interested.
Yeah.
For Bannock County, and I used FY22's billings. For Bannock County, with the proposed billing change, it would cost $669,721. And using the current model, we're at $493,393.
So we have a $200,000 increase.
Yes. Everybody else experiences a decrease.
Except there should be an increase in Bear Lake County, or?
Where's the spreadsheet? Now granted, it adjusts for usage from the prior year, but if I compared apples to apples, that's what we would be more money.
A couple $100,000.
I thought Franklin was going up.
Well,
Franklin wants to.
they will. It's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of complicated to look at that because Bear Lake was getting the best deal out of anybody on this. But I think the way that is run, there's like some, can I look at it really quickly? I think that it shows like some adjustments.
That's the billing difference. So what I did is I took the, and we had to round because nobody will pay any less than 2%. And Oneida was at like 1.88, so I had to round that up to 2%. Because that's one thing we're going to have to figure out how to adjust that when doing the billings. But,
And they had some heartburn over that, but they finally agreed to,
Yeah.
that 2% was fair.
and actually on this one, I did not take into account with the average, I didn't take into account the prior year adjustments because we wouldn't have those. But using the current model, we did have the prior year adjustments. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And behind that is the prior years. So, yeah.
I know through our discussions, Bannock, or
That's the
Bear
prior-
Lake and Franklin knew that they would potentially be paying more.
Correct.
But that's just gonna be based on, you know, future usage too. So the 10-year average makes it a better way to be able to tell what they are gonna be billed, but,
Unless we keep the current model.
yeah.
Well, we knew it was gonna impact us a little bit worse than anticipated.
A lot of it. This is a bad idea.
The problem is so if it's $200,000 deficit, and we have to come up with that, how exactly are we coming up with that? That would be my question, is just to, where are we pulling that from?
Well, currently, when you make your contribution, it comes from the county operations budget.
Uh-huh.
So if we were to accept this, and, because right now, this is proposed for '23.
Uh-huh.
You would just have to increase your contribution rate by that amount, which means we would have to take from somewhere else. Right now, we're over budgeted for what we thought we would need for '22.
Uh-huh.
So we could, in theory, keep that amount, and then it wouldn't really affect us moving forward, other than we've had some, we have money that you have flexibility to spend right now that you will not have next year if we go to this model. Does that make sense?
We have flexibility in this year that we won't have next year.
Well,
Yeah.
basically, I over budgeted this year, so now you can use that $170,000.
It would just permanently be
For other
assigned to the
uses.
budget, because next year you won't have that flexibility of the 170 in there, if you realistically hit that trend. Now, you could theoretically be less, but not, I mean, I don't know,
Well-
you guys are, I mean, we
We went
might,
with the 10 years for a couple reasons. Number one, to smooth out the dips, so
Ups and downs.
it's easier to budget on a yearly basis for. And again, Franklin and Bear Lake County were seeing an uptick in their usage, so that was part of, we didn't have to shoulder the whole thing, but
Well, currently, under this model, we would pay 76%, just a flat 76%. Usage would, because we're the bigger county, usage would really have to change in order for us to,
it's not
Pay
gonna
a
change
lower
that much, because
percentage, it's not.
they're going,
Yeah.
you know, maybe 20, 30 kids a year difference. It's not a huge difference, but
Yeah, the assessment center might make some differences, I hope. I think that's one of the main purposes of that assessment center, but that's just to be seen. You know, we'll see what happens there. Usage also can be affected hugely by changes in judges, and we have a few changes in judges happening. The biggest change we have is in Bannock County. Judge Murray's retiring at the end of June. And we have Anson Call will be taking over as the juvenile judge. So there could be changes that we see through different judges. It's hard to say. I mean, through my experience, usually we see it either uptick or lowering from each county based on who the judge is, so.
under the other model, the only reason we saw some savings was because usage would be the 76%, and that's where we took the 50% of the billing, was based on usage and 50% was based on fixed costs. So our fixed cost was 62.5% because of the bed ownership or the bed allocation, so that was where we saw a little bit of reprieve, but this would just basically take that away.
So we're paying 75%,
76.
76,
Because that's the amount that we use
and our ownership is 66%
back
of
in.
the facility, is that?
That was the original ownership
Okay.
percentage.
So my question is, so if a county doesn't use the facility at all, they still get,
It's still in there.
if they don't, so say Caribou County or
That
Bear
was
Lake doesn't
historical number.
have any
It's not
kids in a year,
calculated based on that anymore.
they don't
Well,
pay
that-
anything then, right?
That 10-year average, they're still
It's all
gonna
based on-
pay.
They're still gonna pay something?
They're going up. It would take them 10 years to get to a baseline of 0.
Minimally, basically somebody's going to pay 2%.
Yeah. And that scenario is not going to happen.
Yeah, no.
Because there are certain crimes that juveniles, well, any.
Are always gonna commit,
That they have to be
Yeah,
detained for those things. So, I mean, their usage, they could really make an effort to push their usage down, and yeah, that could go down, but it will never go to 0.
okay. All right. So, I think what might be a good idea though, with this, just to understand and make sure where we have is where we have budget that's coming in right now with this, how fast do we have to have this signed? Do you have to have this signed prior to budget, or can we sign it at budget? Because what I'm saying is I think it might be a good idea to actually go through the budgeting, actually, as we start going through expense contingency and operations, and just make sure that we know where we're at. Because, I mean, that's one of those things that I would prefer,
The
yeah,
other thing this new contract does is speeds up the billing
it does.
so that we're not carrying the load for 6 months. It's more on a quarterly billing.
Yeah, but we've got plenty of reserves to float the,
I know, but if we don't have,
process.
if we don't have to float it, why should we?
well, no, I mean, the fund has plenty of reserves to float it.
Right.
It's no different than any of our other funds. It holds at least, well, actually, the MOU says 33.3%
Yeah, it's enough to run
to
it.
get us for the first 3, because I should finish out the year before we send the billing, because if there's unspent monies or if revenues come in higher, that's still going to adjust the bill, regardless of just putting a flat percentage to it or not. So I have to have that done before I can send it. I won't be able to send the bill out any sooner than December like I have been.
But now you'll know, so you can send the bill out every quarter, and you don't have to wait 6 months or to the end of the year to send out the bill. You can send out a quarterly statement, because you'll know what your amount is at the beginning of the year.
What I do no, because I've got to have the year balanced. So I've got to know what unspent. So I can't send the bill in October because I won't have the prior year closed, or at least final invoices in and final revenue in. So I'll still send the bill in December, regardless. Because I have to have that information, otherwise I'm going to change the billing amount.
I'm not tracking that, but.
Okay, we'll talk. Because I've got to have unspent expenditures and I've got to have revenue if there's overages. I have to have those two numbers to apply to the budget amount, to reduce the budget amount, so that I can say, here's your 66%, here's your 2%, here's your 4%. If I send it sooner than that, then I'll have to do an adjustment in January when I send the billing again.
Yeah, we'll have to talk.
Okay. And this year, we had budgeted $640,000 for juvenile, so we will have to come up with potentially $30,000 in next year's budget to accommodate this.
Okay, what's your desire?
Well, I've been working on it for a year, and it is what it is, and if it's okay to wait till we go through the budget process, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I do need to get it to the other counties so I can start with the other counties. I'm starting here with Bannock County, but I know the other counties are ready to approve.
Yeah.
They are.
It benefits them a lot more than it benefits.
Well,
me.
like I said, I'd rather go through just especially in county operations and budget, just to understand, make sure, okay, if we're gonna have this kind of jump, where and how are we pulling funds and what are we cutting and what are we hacking down? And like I said, I mean, it does make it over a 10-year, okay, yeah, it makes it easier, I got it. But at the same time, there's just one of those things that first year or two might be kind of, ooh. So, a little bit of a hard pill to swallow. I mean, it just, because there is that we have used that in the past when we haven't had, to use all of that, there has been some money in there that we do use for other things. So, that's just where I'm at.
Well, I'm at the point of whether, was the old system right, or is this system right, or which is, who's utilizing the facility and who's paying for the beds? I mean,
We are using
yeah,
it.
We're using it,
Yeah.
we're doing it. We really need to
the
clean-
obligation. I mean, if it's
Yeah.
our obligation to pay for it, it's our obligation to
Yeah.
pay for the people that we have in the beds.
So,
That's
can I
kind of where
say,
I'm at.
When we were starting to look at these changes, I was asked by the board to find out what other detention centers do. This is
Yeah.
what most detention centers do, is they just say this is the most fair way. Whoever uses it pays for it.
But,
And it is. It's, you know,
so, honestly, I see no reason to hold off, and we're just gonna have to adjust in the budget accordingly. Is the way I feel, kinda. I mean, if we know, then we're moving forward knowing. Otherwise, why put it off for a month?
Yep,
yeah.
that's fair enough.
If you guys are ready to go with it, then you're
I am.
comfortable with
Like
it,
I said,
that's fine.
Sometimes you throw over rocks and it works, and sometimes you throw over rocks and it doesn't work. This was not a great work.
But at the same time, though, I think in the future, it does actually, you know, Twin Falls, talking to Don and some of those guys, I believe that's how they do it up there.
Well, interestingly enough,
They might actually,
they're
talking about going back to the
they're
Costco
talking
method.
about adopting how we used to do it.
Yeah, they're talking about going back to the Costco method.
According to their director,
Yeah.
because when I was doing some research, he said, well, how do you do it? And I told him. And he
Well, they've
said,
had a couple other
"Wow."
counties that their juvenile crime hasn't grown faster than a couple of their other counties. And us, across the district, it's all about the same rate. But they have they have a couple counties that are
Yeah.
very minimal, and then they have two counties that are just, their kids don't know how to behave at all.
Well, it goes back to, we're gonna have a new judge. I don't know what's gonna happen. Nobody does.
It's hard to say. I mean, I've worked with Anson Call for a while as the prosecutor in Power County. He's a great guy. I think he's going to do a really good job as a judge in our county.
I do too.
agree.
And I honestly believe that the judge in Caribou County is gonna do a great job also, so.
Okay.
So, I'd just go ahead and have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the joint powers agreement as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, those are the four I know of.
That's the four that's on my list.
Okay, good. I was a little nervous. I was like, maybe I didn't read that very good. I do need each one of those originals that you just signed so that I can get those to the other representatives, and I will, as soon as I have those other signatures, I will give them back to Bannock County.
Okay.
Nice
Almost
shot.
slid.
Almost.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Shanda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shanda Crystal, Purchasing and Economic Analyst. I have one item for the board today. It is a lease agreement with Bangor for the sheriff's units. The sheriff came before the board about a month ago talking about a couple of 22 units that had arrived without a home, and that we would gladly accept that as a home. We are still waiting, if you remember that conversation, for the equipment to be installed. That obviously wasn't ordered as it wasn't a plan, but we are grateful to have these units, and this would put the Bannock County's name on them. And then the items have already been ordered, but as with a lot of things, it is 3 to 5 months before they're gonna arrive. So it'll be a little bit, but these are the ones that the sheriff also was adamant that there will not be a lease payment until fiscal year '23. So.
Okay. Questions?
These are all within the budget amount that we have or that we're anticipating, typical budget amounts for leases.
Maybe next year, I don't know.
Next year. Mhm.
Well, based on historical numbers, are we within?
Yes.
Typically, yeah.
We're getting them, so originally, the sheriff's office would have asked for 5 2023 vehicles. Getting 3 at 22 prices will actually save us the money, so it'll be great.
Okay.
And they're all white and just what we needed, so. We just now need to get the equipment here.
Well, that could take a while.
Motion?
I'm okay with that.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the signature for the lease agreements on the sheriff's vehicles.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So, next, we have resolutions. Resolution number 2022-35, adopting ordinance number 2022-2, amending number 60, no on zoning ordinance number 19981. Then we have resolution number 2022-36, leading Idaho local bridge program, and county ordinance 2022-2, amending number 60, zoning ordinance number 1998-1.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the resolutions and ordinances as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And for signatures only, we have a memorandum of understanding with Leading Idaho Local Bridge Program and vendor agreement for Independence Day celebration. Motion on the signatures.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding on the Leading Idaho Local Bridge Program.
And vendor agreement.
And the vendor agreement for the Independence Day celebration.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have the consent agenda. Let's see. Alcohol license. Salary rate approval forms. So D6 must have hired a couple of new counselors.
Yes,
Yep.
but they also have one that will be terming, and they have one vacancy still.
They have one that's going to be terming or quitting.
And then we have minutes for May 19th and May 24th. And that is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. So, We will be at recess till 10:15.